Welcome. Today is a treat. We're going to be talking with a parent of a gambling addict. For some people, it could be a problem gambler. Welcome again to another episode of the 1% in Recovery podcast, where we encourage you to laugh every day. We have to laugh. We have to work hard in recovery, work hard in our relationships, and work hard in our job, school, or if you work for someone or your business. And of course, you've got to love unconditionally. The more love you put out in the universe, the more love that's going to come back to you, more than tenfold. So laugh, work, love. Remember, recovery is beautiful, your EQ is your IQ, and you cannot outthink an emotional issue. Now, what we encourage people to do in the link down below in the show notes is to join the Facebook group Recovery Freedom Circle. It's a community where everyone can participate, where you can talk about the steps, you can talk about recovery, you can talk about whatever your dreams and goals are, something motivational. It could be a question, it could be a problem, an issue, and just allow me or other people in the community to just add value so we can all grow and heal. Now, we are going to jump into this week's episode. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Excellent.
You are.
Excellent. Well, let's start off. Let's tell the audience one thing you love.
One thing I love. Well, my wife and I have 3 sons, and something we've all loved to do over the years has been play disc golf. So,
Are they courses or?
They are, yeah. You throw like frisbees in these metal baskets, and we used to have to drive all over the country to go visit family and whatnot, and we would typically break up the drive by stopping somewhere and getting in a quick round of disc golf for an hour, just to keep everybody sane.
So you can do 18 holes in an hour? Or
hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Really? So it was really quick.
Pretty quick, yeah.
That's good. It gives you a little workout too. You guys walking.
Yes, it does.
And how? So at a typical, I guess, is there like a par to these? Par 3, par 4?
Most of them are par 3, but they do have some par 4s.
And what's the distance? Are we talking about 200, 150?
Like I'd say anywhere from 200 to 500 feet, typically.
Okay. Yeah. Not bad.
Yeah.
And enjoy it.
And it's free. That's the big thing. It was free. That kind of got my attention. Raising 3 boys, not a whole lot of extra income there. So
that's good. All right, so let's jump in. And I know it's a shock for especially a parent. Probably more so for a parent than a spouse when they find out someone that they love has a problem. And one of your sons, you can label it either a gambling addict. You can explain in your answer, consider him a gambling addict, a problem gambler. But when you found out about your son's gambling, how did that feel? And did you feel confused, like nowhere to go for help? Just explain how all that kind of came about.
Yeah. I know my wife and I had never really been exposed to addiction. I mean, we've got plenty, like nobody's perfect. We have our own issues, but for whatever reason, addiction hadn't been something that we'd ever been familiar with. And so I would say the initial way we felt was just being shell-shocked of trying to kind of understand how it could happen. And from there, probably just, I'd say, a little bit of grief, because we knew how hard our boys had worked to save the money that he had lost in his gambling, and so that was a bit, I'd say, on the grieving side of trying to imagine all that hard work kind of going down the drain. And then I'd say we probably struggled with just fear and just maybe some hopelessness of trying to figure out. The more we talked to our son, the more it started to dawn on us that this was not going to be just a quick fix. And
it wasn't as small a problem as you may have first imagined.
Correct. Yeah, I don't think we had understood. We were very naive when it came to addiction.
Well, let me stop right there.
Yeah.
So, but the key thing is that's the biggest issue, and I want the whole audience to know about gambling compared to drugs and alcohol, especially, is that gambling becomes much more secretive, and there's so many more you can hide. Like, oh, I'm not going to tell you. I'll tell you about these 2 credit cards or this 1 payday loan, or the but I'm not going to tell you about this other card because I don't want to tell you the full amount that I've lost. So most gamblers will do this. I want everyone to understand most gamblers will first give you a number, and you've got to understand that number will probably triple or quadruple until you get to the bottom of how much is technically owed or what is out there. Depends on, it could be with bookies, loan shark, banks, whatever it is, friends. There's all that. So I just want you to continue. So you're not alone in kind of like that initial's like, oh, because no one wants to, especially no one wants to disappoint their parents, but especially it's like, I'm going to minimize it and realize when it's bigger, it's like,
yes,
what?
Yes, I know. There's denial going on with the gambler and the family. And so, yeah, there's always probably underestimating and trying to stick your head in the sand a bit. And so that was definitely the case for us too, as far as what we were hearing. And the further you got in, the more you realized it's even bigger than what it was when you first started. So,
and there's that initial thing almost is like, how many people know you're gambling? Because then it feels like no one, I mean, that goes on almost throughout every kind of culture. Don't tell your business outside the house, or we don't want everybody else to know, because for whatever reason, every family deals with something.
Absolutely.
And addiction is the biggest of them all, but everyone's dealing with something. But it's amazing how everybody wants to almost pretend that they're perfect, that normal Rockwell painting, that there's nothing going on. And I don't want my neighbors or the other people in the church or anybody else to know, because somehow it's going to be looked frowned upon. But if you came with them like saying, I have cancer, no one would say, oh, why did you get cancer?
Yeah.
But addiction, it's that whole stigma. And I don't, did you feel like you almost had to keep it first, almost like secretive, just until you kind of understood?
Yeah. I mean, I'm blessed to have a great wife, and I'd say, I can understand how perhaps out there a spouse might have a hard time facing reality, and just the two of you coming to be able to communicate about reality is that in itself is tough to just, talk honestly about what's going on. And whereas one might pretend that it's not happening or you minimize it, but when you both can finally wrap your brains around it and start to dig in and accept it and kind of educate yourself on what addiction is and how it's so easy these days to fall into it, then it's easier to kind of not take the stigma away and start talking honestly together and collaborating together on how you can help your loved one. So.
I agree. And I have to commend both you and your wife have been very proactive. And this will kind of lead into question 2, and we'll kind of balance question 1 and 2. But because a lot of times, especially with the spouse, parents to a degree almost feel like, well, it's the addict's problem. Go fix it. Go to meetings, go to therapy, go to treatment, whatever the plan is to try to resolve the problem. People don't realize that question 2 is both you and your wife have been to 12-step meetings that are designed for family members that are living with, whether it's the gambler, whether it's an alcoholic. There's different types of 12-step meetings for the family members or the loved ones of the addict. Tell people that, because I know a lot of people don't want to go to that because they feel like they're not the problem. And explain your experience with those 12-step meetings, as well as the help that you received or the support, or just explain so you can help people understand that it's actually a good thing and it's not something negative.
Yes, I I can't say enough about what a huge value and help and support that is to start seeking help outside of yourself. Because my wife and I had never been to a support group before, but my goodness, what a huge help and support that's been to just start talking to others about what's going on. No judgment. You hear others share their vulnerable things that are going on, and you begin to realize you're not alone, and you begin to realize how easy it is to get into addiction, and you begin to appreciate
I think
yeah.
that's very important because they don't underestimate how manipulative and how conniving, especially now with casinos, sports books, all the major sports leagues, saying that gambling is almost so much fun. Oh, you just put in $5 and you'll get $200 in these no sweat bets. Free insurance to try to get you hooked. No different than a drug dealer. I'm telling you, casinos are no different than drug dealers. That's why they give the first bag of heroin for free, and that's why your first bets are for free. They know how addictive this product is, and that's, I think, confusing. So I would please continue about that. I think that what probably don't realize is all this advertising. There's a reason why the gambling industry spends over $2 billion in gambling advertising. They don't spend $2 billion to try to get back $1 billion. They spend $2 billion and they get back $10 billion. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. No, it's I couldn't agree more on what a trap and how the deck is, not to use cards in here, but how the deck is so strongly stacked against. Once you it's like probably anything, any addiction, any temptation out there. Once you kind of give in, it is hard to break the cycle, and then you have society and marketing and so much to kind of are trying to entrap you even more. So yes, the Gam-Anon support groups that we started attending were huge. They still are huge. We're still going because first of all, you don't realize it's so encouraging to realize you're not alone.
Correct.
Also to start hearing about others, and a lot of them are further along and they can share wisdom with you. And they're going to encourage you not to, you can hear some ideas on how to prepare for, the battle you have ahead, and how you're going to have to, how that relationship is going to be different, and how you can best help your loved one and help your family as well to kind of tackle what's before you. So,
and also what people is not, but you're leading into it. Also, the insights you learn about yourself and your own personal growth.
Yeah.
And then if you're growing, and then the addict is growing, it's amazing how much better the family flourishes. Yeah. Why don't you just quickly then? So after it started working, all of you guys started really trying to understand recovery. You guys took a family vacation this past summer to Colorado, and how much, I guess, to me, what I've heard is the impact of just being out in nature, and how you almost like connected with God, connected with each other, and how much better it is when you were able to kind of now understand that you and your and the family better.
Yeah, no, we did. Our three sons are in their 20s, so we thought that the days of doing family vacations probably were done. But it somehow worked out where all five of us, we had a 5-day stretch, and I probably mistold you where we went, but we actually went to, oh my gosh, Yellowstone.
Okay, Yellowstone. You did go to Yellowstone. I'm sorry. It was my mistake.
They're all beautiful.
Yeah, I know. Colorado, you're still part of the Rocky Mountains.
We were hiking, and, it was awesome to get away, to just hang out together. It had been a few years since we had even done a trip like that. We didn't do a lot of trips to scenic, amazing places anyway, in general. So that itself was just great.
And Yellowstone's one of the picturesque. If you've never been to Yellowstone, highly encouraged. You really want to touch base and find out how beautiful America is, go to Yellowstone.
It is. It's incredible for sure. So it did. You're just kind of being together, and I think that helped. Just to be together as a family, and it just probably helped add additional encouragement to everybody, and help the process continue, keep the momentum going, I guess. So
excellent. Now, question number 3. And a lot of people stop at that kind of like question 1 and 2. The addict, the problem person seeks help, and they start getting help. You, the family, you guys also go to 12-step meetings. And then there's always encouraged to either find a therapist, find a recovery coach like myself. How important, after you guys were looking for additional help, because you explain in your own words is why you sought out additional help, and how you have felt that the Recovery Freedom Circle, how impactful that has been for your son, and how compare adding to it. Explain your experience with the Recovery Freedom Circle and getting more help.
Yes. I would say tapping into the Gamblers Anonymous community, it was a huge place where we started, right? We started realizing where do we go to get help? And we began realizing, I think I'm correct in saying this, Alcoholics Anonymous, I'd say there's a bigger community out there than there is for Gamblers Anonymous. You got to work harder to go find the Gamblers Anonymous. There's not as many.
There's not as many meetings. There's not as many people that identify.
Yeah.
You're talking probably almost
it's disappointing.
20 to 1.
You got to work harder. Even though I think it's as much an epidemic as
well, it's growing. Unfortunately, sadly,
it is.
It's growing.
It is. So when we kind of tapped into that, and we saw the value of people and relationships, and how that trumps everything, quite frankly. And we started talking with people there, and the various mentors, the various people who have been through a lot and are still hanging around helping people. We heard about different stories on counseling, and I can see the value in that. We saw the value in that. But for us, as we got to know your program, as we got to hear your story, you spent a lot of time getting to know my wife and I up front, hearing our questions. The fact that you were very transparent about your story and how your battles, and how you've spent, your 24 years
without gambling, 27 without drinking.
Yeah. To me, that's incredible. And that you kind of made it your life's work to help people. And in the 7-8 months that we have been working with you, it's been huge. I know when we were getting started, I asked you if we could have a meeting. I wouldn't necessarily call it an intervention, but I think in a way maybe it was. But it was Memorial Day. We grabbed our son, went to Denny's, and just kind of talked about what's ahead, because we knew our son was not going to like it, and he was going to resist every bit and not, do any kind of work, whatever. It was not going to be a fun ride, but we thought, well, let's at least try to talk about it up front, and that way maybe it would pave the way to make it to go a little easier. So anyway, we finally got through the 12 steps, which is a miracle, because I know a lot of times, it could take years before that ever happens, quite frankly. I mean, we were fortunate, and who knows, relapses, I'm sure, will happen.
And not necessarily, but there's a problem. I mean, your son did. So just people up front, his son did went back and did gamble for a couple days, but everything is trained. But like I always say, relapse is not the deal. I mean, if you've already started a program, it's no different than if you start a diet and then you lose 50 pounds and then you gain back 10 or 15, you still can move forward whatever your goal is.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. I think too much is that 12-step almost beating of the drum is like, what's your recovery date? What's your sobriety date? Who cares?
Right.
The question is are you getting better?
That's so true. And I'd say I'm still educating myself on understanding addiction more. But I agree so much on that, in that if you do slip, show yourself grace, talk about it with others, people that are some accountability partners, hopefully you got in your life, and then, plan out move ahead and stop beating yourself up on it. So I know the differences that we have seen after going through this, even in the midst of it, was staggering. Okay. Because just, we saw an self-awareness that we had not seen at the level that we began seeing. I would say self-confidence, absolutely. Owning things, beginning to own things more and taking responsibility. I think when you're in your early 20s, I'm sure my parents drove me nuts that I wasn't accepting responsibility and not maturing by any, far cry from it. But we saw maturity going on. We saw goal setting, the things that as a parent, you just pray is going to happen. Okay.
But magically it doesn't.
Exactly. And by the way,
everyone needs some type, or I always say some types of teacher, mentor, coach. You need to add in, because to put all the onus on parents is unfair. It's no different than if they were playing a sport or a musical instrument. You seek out people that know more than the parent does. So just finish up. Because I think that's the key. The Recovery Freedom Circle is designed in 18 weeks, but usually people, for work, for school, something, it takes a couple weeks more, a little longer, and that's fine. But the key thing is that there's always homework. There's always those questions to answer. There's always accountability, because I'm always there pushing people. So would answer the question. You believe that spending extra money to almost like gain more knowledge quicker was worth it?
Yes. Yeah, definitely the knowledge, but I think I know you wanted me to be objective in our podcast.
No,
Okay,
I get
it. But I'm going to sit. I don't. The value of your follow up, kind of that encouraging texts, and I know kids, and they claim they don't want people talking to them or calling, but I think that yes, that was the difference maker. That kind of rapport that you created, the care, that challenged him to get it done. And so I think that was a huge part. And it just encouraged him to learn the content and then, begin to realize, all right, there is something to this. And, I want to keep going.
Well, here's the thing. The reason I do this, so everybody's out there. So it's not just someone in their 20s, because I have clients in their 40s. I have clients in their 60s. And the addict mind will say, I got this. Yeah. And then they will slow move through, whether they're doing the steps, the original 12 steps, or they're even in therapy. And a therapist is not going to call you. But I will be on, your son is no different than any of the other people in different age groups, is I'll send a text, get no response. The next day I'll push him again. And then part of it may be just because they're annoyed at me or they don't want me to keep it, so they'll do it. But I know how addicts work because I was the same way. So that's the difference. And I know then I get, because if no one's pushing an addict, they will always try to procrastinate. And I know that that's not the way to recover. I say all the time, you spend too much time in your disease, in the addiction, why take too much long in recovery? You should be able to just get all the different help and move forward. So any last words?
I just would encourage people to tap into a support community. That's been huge to us. I know it's important to my wife and I to try to give back moving forward. And I know we're thankful for that even being in place. We're thankful for you kind of making this part of your life work to, uh, you know, come up with the strategies to help people like us that were desperate. We didn't know what the heck to do. And it really, so yes, just, I guess, gratitude right now and just an encouragement to people to say, you're not alone, hang in there, be open and honest about it. It's not the end of the world, and there's help, and there's people who want to help you, and you might have to look a little bit hard to go find it, but it's out there. And I think once you tap into that, you're not alone, and it's going to be easier to fight this with others, especially the others who have been there and can kind of help prepare you for the roller coaster ride, because it really is a roller coaster ride. And I would say that those are my parting words: is find a community and tap into it and let them help you, and then maybe you can help somebody down the road. So
Excellent.
yes,
I agree. There you hear it, another testimonial of the Recovery Freedom Circle. And with that, we are going to conclude this episode of the podcast, The 1% in Recovery.